the orders were really vague and really strange, and I didn't know really what I was getting myself into by the way the orders looked. Normally the orders are pretty self-explanatory, you know what's going on. And these were like just odd. The wording was so brief and to the point, and it didn't really give me any kind of what I'm going to be doing. So I'm in my dress whites, my skirt and my pumps, got my hair in my bun, you know, in its whites, you know, sailor. I walk into the Marine Corps office and I was like, hi, I'm reporting for duty.
This is on Coronado, right?
Coronado. I'm reporting for duty. And these guys are like in PT gear and they stop me, like literally stop me. And they go, wait a minute, stop. You're not a guy. And I was like, I'm aware. And they were like, we weren't sure about your name. It was Tamara, right? But I mean, like maybe I was a guy. They couldn't assume it was a guy billet. So it was only males, no females allowed. And here I come, show up. And they were like, whoa, 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 whoa. And so for 3 hours, I stood at parade rest in front of the colonel's office. And he was deciding whether I got to stay or not. That was my first day. And I'm in my dress, you know, and I'm feeling so stupid. I'm feeling like I made a mistake. Somebody made a mistake. And I thought I was in trouble. I felt like I was in trouble.
Welcome back, everybody. My guest today is Tami Thacker. Tami's the Veteran Services Coordinator at the University of California at Riverside. She's got a passion for helping veterans, which comes from her time in the Navy. But what makes the story more special is where she came from. As a young child, her life was rough. There was a lot of moving around. She did have a stepdad who was a Marine who brought a little stability, but she ended up back in California as a young teenager and ended up living on the streets. She married a sailor at a very young age. The marriage didn't end well, but her fire was lit to serve in the military. She decided she wanted to join the Marine Corps. She wanted to be a medic. She didn't know the difference between a medic and a corpsman. She just knew she wanted to join the Marine Corps. So she walked into the recruiting office and said, I want to be a medic. And the Marine Corps promptly pointed her to the Navy. She enlisted in 1999 and eventually served 12 years and got out as a senior chief. But during her time in the Navy, she got her wish, and she got to be with Marines. She was the first female corpsman assigned to the Recon school at Coronado. She spent 5 years there and has some really interesting stories. But getting out, on the other hand, didn't go the way she planned. It wasn't the smoothest transition, and she had some personal struggles. But she's a fighter. Well, she'll tell you those stories too from living on the streets as a kid. But that resilience and that strength that she developed is what's helping her succeed today. So as always, thank you for taking the time to listen. Here's episode 117 with Tami Thacker. What do you want to talk about?
I guess I could introduce myself first.
Let me make it easier for you. Let's start way back at the beginning.
Okay.
As a little girl.
Okay.
Where'd you grow up?
Well, I was born in Orange, California. We lived all over Orange County, Southern California. My parents were very young. So my mom, when they started, was 16. My dad was 18. Had my sister. My mom at 18 had me, and at 21 had my brother. So she was a very young mother.
Were they high school sweethearts?
Yeah, sort of. They were still in high school. And, you know, she had like 2 years left. So they were together for, you know, a few years before they got a divorce. But we weren't a very rich family, very poor with those two young parents. And so we struggled a bit.
What kind of work did your mom do and your dad do? My
mom did not work. She stayed home, and my dad was a mechanic. And we constantly had cars in our driveway that he was fixing up and whatnot. My mom always driving a hot rod, you know. I remember those days. But, you know, they got a divorce. You can kind of expect that being so young. And then my mom married a Marine shortly after. So my stepdad became my dad at that point. And learned a Marine Corps lifestyle very quickly within the house. I mean, like height lines on Saturday morning for your cleaning assignment, you know, toothbrush and toothpick in hand. So he was very strict, but a really good guy. Took on three little kids, and he was only like 20 something, you know. So he was just a good father figure for us, taught us a lot. All the way until I was 11, I was quite a rambunctious child. My mom was like, I got to get rid of you. And she actually sent me to live with my real dad, which was a bad idea. I ended up living in my grandma's garage for a while. He didn't really care for me, so to speak.
Where was this at?
This was in Orange, back to Orange. But my childhood was in Wyoming.
Oh, okay.
So when my mom married the Marine, we moved to Wyoming. So I was there until I was 11. Different lifestyle than California. No diversity.
Slightly.
Yeah, no diversity. I grew up in a very diverse school and everything. Get to Wyoming and it's like a bunch of white people, and I didn't understand that. My growing up was a little different. I was in a very multicultural school and area when we grew up.
How old were you when you went to Wyoming?
I was just graduated kindergarten, so I think I was five or six.
But old enough to kind of notice the difference.
I did. I totally noticed the difference because my friends looked different, and I couldn't find the friends that, and it was just a little confusing as a kid. And then moved back to California, and I was like, oh, okay, this is something that I can live with, and this is what I'm used to. And I was happy to be back in California. However, not so happy that I didn't have a parent that cared for me. Moving on to, later, a couple years later, he ended up moving in with a woman in Redondo Beach, took me with him. It was a very abusive household at that point, and I hit the streets. So I was on the streets.
Like at 14?
Yeah, I was about 14 maybe. Yeah, 14 probably. It was freshman year, sophomore year, junior year. Just kind of bouncing around, sleeping at people's couches, or, I took the bus a lot from LA to Long Beach. Just the ride back and forth would be a good nighttime ride, safe. I was a smart kid raised by a Marine. I had survival techniques like nobody's business. And I knew I didn't have to beg. I knew I could go out and make money. So I cleaned houses. I worked at a deli. I went to school half-time because I was in continuation. I got kicked out of every high school I went to. It was just, I was like I said, a rambunctious kid. I had a lot of anger in me,
So not on the dean's list and not destined for an Ivy League college.
I was not destined for college at all. As a matter of fact, when I was in high school, my history teacher, one day I was chewing gum, and it was college day where all the colleges were coming to talk to us, and I was chewing gum in the class. He made me stand in front of the class and put my gum on my nose and say, I'm never going to college. And so at that point, I was like, well, I guess I'm never going to college. And it was so mean. I think back now how mean that was. But, it established this thing where I'm just not college material. So I didn't ever expect to. And I was in continuation and all this business. So
going backwards a little bit, you mentioned that your mom sent you back to California.
Yeah.
You said you were rambunctious.
Yeah.
Were you just were you actually causing legitimate problems for the family, or just too much for her to deal with?
Too much for her to deal with. I asked a lot of questions. I was curious. I wanted to know. I was an investigator, and I don't think she could handle that. I was always curious about what's more. What's the next step? What are we doing next? You know what I mean? And I was very much a forward thinker as a kid, and very, very much you had to pay attention to what I was trying to do next because I was going to do it. I was a doer. And so you had to keep an eye on me.
What was your relationship? You said you had a sister and a brother?
Yes. I have an older sister and a younger brother. And then later, my real father had another son. Really don't keep in touch with any of them anymore. But my older sister lives down the street. My younger brother lives right outside of Vegas in Mesquite. I don't know if you know where that is.
Mm-hmm.
But
were the two, the older sister and the younger brother, were they in Wyoming also?
They were in Wyoming
and they stayed.
They stayed, and so they had a different life than I did growing up. So they had like my mom taking care of them. They had a house, they had the works, but I didn't have all that with my dad.
Where I was going with it was looking back on the 11-year-old you and now being out in California without your brother and sister, how much did that impact you? How much missing them and stuff did that have an impact on you?
It had a lot because I wasn't in line. Like, how your brothers and sisters like kind of give you a nudge, don't do that. Keeping you in line, especially my older sister, she was the boss, so I didn't have a boss anymore. I just had myself and the little drill sergeant in the back of my head as a kid, like, don't do that. Or, hey, maybe you need to go and do this because this is going to get you there. My stepdad always put an idea in my head, never quit. You're not a quitter. And I know sometimes that sounds horrible to some people, but in my life, don't quit was like the savior, because had I quit, who knows how I would have been on the streets. You know what I mean? So I always had to take the next step. What is your next move? What is your next move? And so I dropped out of school for a while and I worked, and I was like, okay, I got to drop back in because I can't quit. I always had it in the back of my head. I can't quit. I got to go to school. That's what I'm supposed to be doing. And so I went back to school and I graduated, and then, when
you were in it and committed to it, did you like school?
The artsy parts of school, I did really well. Math, I did really well, but I didn't care for any of the, like they had you read stories and books and whatnot. And I was like, this is in fantasy land. I don't have time for this. I need the real of it right now.
15 going on 40. I don't have time for this garbage.
I was living an adult life, really, you know, trying to make money to live. A lot of kids that were in my grade weren't doing that. You know what I mean?
When you say you were living on the streets, like how far onto the streets? Like couch surfing with friends or literally on the streets?
Literally on the streets. I mean, there were plenty of bus stops that I would live at, or the beach. A lot of times I just went and laid on the sand on the beach because I knew that I wasn't in people's eyes. So I'd walk down the beach a little ways and just lay on the sand and sleep. And then I knew in the morning when the sun came up, it was time to get up because people are going to start walking the beach. And I just tried to pick safe, you know, ways where I wasn't going to get harmed. And
what year are we talking about through all this?
Gosh, it was probably 89,
okay.
88, late 80s to early 90s.
Okay.
Yeah. I finally, when I was a junior, got my own house. And I shacked up with a couple of people I knew that were already graduated. And that really worked out. I stayed in that house, you know, till I graduated high school.
How were you able to keep from... You're living on the streets, you're sleeping on the beach. I'm assuming probably not hanging out with the most reputable people. How did you keep from completely going off the rails, end up in jail that
Oh my gosh.
9 yards?
So I can tell you so much about that. So I did not hang out with a crowd that did good things. I hung out with a very violent crowd. It was not intended to be violent. Our mission was actually to create unity between blacks and whites. It was called Orange County United Two-Tone. And so we were a bunch of what we call rude girls and rude boys. So we wore specific clothing, we wore specific hair, you know, and we looked a certain way so we could identify each other. And we were part of United Two-Tone. So we would go around and literally beat down Nazi skinheads and just try to take them out. We thought we were doing good, but it was very violent. So anything that you did on the streets was pretty violent. So I fought a lot, got in a lot of fights. And with that, of course, the police, all the time, the police. I blame the reason why I've never gone to jail because I'm white. I really honestly feel like it because everybody around me that was getting arrested wasn't white, and I was. And why wasn't I getting arrested? Because I was doing the same exact things. So maybe I was good at talking my way out of it. I mean, who knows how it ended up. I can recall many, many times where I should have gone to jail just by doing, you know, the violent acts that we did. Unnecessary. We could have used our words, learned how to use my words through the days. But I can tell you what probably saved me, and this is going to sound not really like robust, I suppose, but there was a band called The Specials. Mm-hmm. And their music was so inspiring and so do positive things. You know, it was very much like, don't be this kid or whatever. And I got these messages from them, the way that they sang it, it registered with me. And so I kept thinking to myself, just follow their rules. Don't do what they're, you know, do what they're saying. Don't go against what they're saying. And I just took these messages from this music, ska music, old ska music, right. Trying to keep unity alive and being a good person and things like that. The messages that the music gave me are kind of what I lived on, and it's kind of what everybody else lived on too. We just got violent when it came time to take out some Nazis, and I mean, it was quite a time during then. I got out of that. I would say around middle junior year, I kind of stepped out of that and realized that I'm an adult now. I got to get it together, you know. Graduated high school, got a real job, you know, started working in retail at the mall, thought I was doing really good.
Was there a specific moment or an incident that caused this light bulb to come on for you to kind of go, hey, I need to pull my head out of my butt and start kind of...
Yeah. So I was going out with this guy, and he worked at a pottery shop, and next door was a deli. And the lady that owned the deli was from England, London, England, and she was very familiar with like a punk rock lifestyle. And I had a shaved head at the time, and she goes, hey, come on in here. I recognize your style. What are you into? And I told her all this stuff about unity and whatnot, and she was stoked to hear it. And so she goes, I can hire you on here if you need something. And I was like, I do. I need a job. She goes, tips only. And I was like, okay. So I busted my ass for tips. And she realized that I was kind of living on the streets, and she had an upstairs office with a couch and a bathroom. So she let me stay in there as long as I needed to until I got myself on my feet. So working at the deli, I got another job working as a medical billing for insurance for a doctor. How I got that job, I'm not sure. My neighbor put in he put in a good word for me, and I got it. So I was working out of their garage doing medical billing for this doctor, just putting out these bills. And this doctor was like, he kept me for so many years, and that was really my first job into medicine, looking at these medical records, thinking how interesting it was.
Did you have any plans for being an adult and what you thought your long-term future might be at this point?
I had zero. I didn't honestly think I was going to be alive. There was a lot of, like I have been shot at more outside of the Navy than I did in the Navy. Do you know what I mean? Like it was a really rough, it was close calls a lot during that time. Never thought that I was even going to make it out alive, let alone find a career,
But you scored yourself away enough at least to graduate high school.
Yes, I did.
Did you have an idea? Was there something you were planning to do with that diploma, GED, whatever you want to call it? Or was it just like, okay, I got to do this?
No, I just wanted my diploma because somebody told me you had to do it, right?
Okay.
So I was one that listened. If an adult that I respected said, you got to do this, I just sort of did. Through that lady that took me off the streets, what I learned from her was that I don't have to have it the hard way. I should listen to people who've already done it the hard way and take their, message and try not to do it the hard way myself. So she taught me that lesson. I don't have to do it the hard way.
How many of us have learned that lesson 30 years too late?
I know. It was really a valuable skill that she taught me. Still, it's hard, when you face obstacles. But I remember her telling me, okay, find somebody who's done it and get the tips from them. You don't have to sit there and reinvent the wheel on everything you're doing.
When did the military start coming into your focus? I know you grew up with a stepdad who was in the Marine Corps, but when did the military become an option?
So, after high school, blobbity, blobbity, and then when I was 21, I got married to a sailor. And we went over to Virginia where he was stationed, and he was on a ship, and I got a taste of what it was like to have a military lifestyle. And then we split up, and we were childhood sweethearts. Like we met when I was like 15 and off and on through the years. And so he, we were too young. It was a mutual, what were we doing? Too young. So we split up. And I mean, I still know the guy now. It's really cool, the way that it worked out. We were just too young, knew each other our whole lives. So we had a great experience as far as the Navy goes, the culture and living it and whatnot. And I thought, I was back in Mesquite, Nevada. I had lived in Mesquite, Nevada for a while. So when you got separated from him, you left Virginia and went to Nevada. Right. And so from there, I was working as an auditor for a hotel and a casino doing the books, the night audit. And I was reading history books, checking them out in the library and bringing them to work and reading it while the computer was processing something to do. And I was reading all these things about war and the military and just, brushing up on what I thought I already knew from my life, right? Interesting things to me. And I was like, geez, all these stories are about boys. It's all guys in here. What's going on? I think I can do this. I'm going to do this. So the next day I went into the Marine Corps recruiter's office saying, I want to be a medic. I want to be I want to be your medic. And I didn't know what I was talking about. It wasn't a medic. It wasn't the Marine Corps. It was supposed to be the Navy. It was a hospital corpsman. But I knew from my stepdad that the doc was where it's at. And I was like, I'm going to be a doc because that seems like everybody loves the doc. Do you know what I mean? And that was like my set. And I already had that medical itch from the billing part. And when I was married to the sailor, I worked in a hospital in the urology department. Okay. So I had some medical in me and I wanted to do that. So I went into the recruiter's office and Marine Corps, and they laughed me out. They were like, you got to get out of here and go next door. And I was so upset because I just wanted to be a Marine, I was ready. And so I went to the Navy office, and it was really unfortunate because I wanted to be a corpsman so bad. And after we were in MEPS and I took my ASVAB and all of that, they said, no, you can't have, I took my ASVAB this day. And on that same day, they said, you can't be a corpsman. We're going to give you an MA, Master at Arms, and military police. So okay. And I was like, yeah, I'm not taking that. That's not what I want to join. So I'm out of here. I'm going to go home. So I did. I went back to my hotel. I packed up my stuff, and I stayed the night because my mom had to come pick me up the next day. And so the next day I get a call at like 8 o'clock in the morning and said, your ASVAB score came back. We're going to give you corpsman. And I was like, hell yeah, because it must have been pretty high, you know. And I was old. I was 25. So
they were trying to force you into the needs of the Navy as a master at arms, as opposed to what you wanted to do as a corpsman.
Yeah, and me being the feisty person that I was and am, I suppose, I'm always that forward thinker, and I was like, I'm not going to move forward with a job that I don't want, and that was it. So I walked out. Arrest me. I don't know. Do you know what I mean? I don't know what I've signed already, but I'll figure it out later. You know, I just want to do what I want to do.
Come catch me.
Yeah. And so I went back, and they signed me up as a hospital corpsman, and I left 3 months later.
And what year was that?
That was 1999. I turned 25 like right after boot camp. So I was 24, 25. And so I was a little older, you know, a little bit easier to open my ears and shut my mouth. Boot camp was I want to say so easy for me, but it sounds like that's not, you know, it wasn't easy. But compared to the rest of the folks, it came really easy to me because I could listen and understand and do. And I realized it was sort of a game. You know, going in, I knew it was a game. You just play it and you're done, right? So I was so good at it. I got meritoriously promoted at the end of boot camp. So I got to leave, went in as an E1 and came out as an E3. So I was stoked because being a little older, it's hard to deal sometimes with the leadership of people that are like 20 years younger than you or 10 years younger. I don't even know how old at that point, right? So, you know, I got my first duty station. I wanted to ship so bad. I wanted to go with the Marines so bad. Neither one of those came around because they didn't send girls at that time to field med as much as they did because there was no war.
Right.
So one girl out of our entire class went to field med to go with the Marines. And I think it was because she was a disciplined case, you know, and later she became like a really strong corpsman. So it worked out for her. I went to a hospital. Was on the emergency team, so I rode the ambulance, worked in the ER, and it was amazing.
Where'd you get stationed at?
Lemoore, California, Naval Air Station Lemoore, in the middle of nowhere. But talk about a learning experience. It was amazing. All trauma, mostly because I got to work in the ER. I got to see some things that people would never get to see. I've got to have my entire arm up in somebody's body cavity pulling out glass. You know, I've seen a leg cut down to the bone with a chainsaw. I handled a guy who got buried alive.
Is this a military hospital or a civilian?
This was military hospital. We had CBs on our base.
Okay.
And they're construction battalions, and they do stupid things like bury each other alive, you know, and they're just roughnecks, very, very cool folks, very easygoing in life, but determined at work, and they work really, really hard. So when they have the chainsaws out and stuff, you know, they're working hard, but every now and then they just make that mistake of cutting their leg open, you know. But it was good business. Most of them CBs, you know, they do some wild things and they work hard.
Were you enjoying it enough to you were thinking, okay, this is my life, this is what my career is going to be?
Yes. From that point, I was determined to do whatever I could, you know, to advance. And so I did. I advanced to E4 at the hospital, and then I was promoted to the leading petty officer for the emergency room. And then I got orders to go to a ship. So I was
by choice or by told?
By choice. I was like, I'm not going anywhere but the Marine Corps or the ship, you know, and I couldn't go with the Marines because I wasn't sent to field med. So, and they weren't going to waste, you know, a body when they could send a guy, you know.
Right.
By that time, though, 9/11 had happened, but it was just not my cards to go with the Marines at that point. So the ship I went to Guam, the AS-40 USS Frank Cable. It's a submarine tender. So we chased subs around the ocean, recovered torpedoes, did their resupply, gave them medical care, whatever they needed. And it was really cool because they would pop up and hook onto our ship, and we can enter and do what we need to do, and then, you know, they could come onto our ship.
For a corpsman on a ship, what's your daily life like?
Oh my gosh. So your day is almost 24 hours.
Okay.
Yeah, you're really.
So you're running and gunning all day long.
All day long. Yeah, you work from 5. Well, you got to get up to go to PT at 4. You wake up at 4. You're done with PT probably around 5:30, and then you're at chow by 6. You're at muster by 7. You know, you got to kind of pace your day out, and then you're up till 10 working. So then on duty though, you're a 24-hour duty. And that's a 24-hour duty. You catch a nap when you can, and that's it. There's no 4 on 4 off with medical on the ship. And it's like if you're up there and there's somebody who needs help, you help them. There's no, I'm not at work. You know, you're up there till 10 o'clock, you know?
Right. And
it's crazy because I was work center soup. So what that means is half my job was maintenance. So I was fixing fan belts and lagging pipes and laying down PRC on the floor and doing needle gunning and painting and all these things. And it was half of everybody's job. So if you're a sailor, that's half of your job, because there's no maintenance man that comes to fix your stuff. You got to do it. You got to clog drain, fix it, you know? I mean, I was everything but an electrician. And being work center soup made all the difference, because then I got meritoriously promoted to E5 on the ship, which was a huge deal. And at that time, I knew I was going to stay in forever, you know. I even had a meeting with the command master chief I got awarded Petty Officer of the Year. And that was after getting Petty Officer of the Quarter a few times, you know. I was just moving up and moving up and moving up. And when I was there,
So definitely not the days of back in school where you were slacking. You were 100%.
Highly motivated. Yeah, I loved it. I loved it. I was good at it. Do you know what I mean? It makes a difference.
You found your purpose.
I did. And I was helping people every day. And I was just good at it, and I was quick. And the next thing I know, I'm telling my command master chief, I want your job. And he was like, well, then let's prep you, you know, like, thank you for telling me, let's prep you. And so I had like a mentor just trying to prep me to advance and advance and advance. Well, my orders came up, and I got orders to Expeditionary Warfare Training Group Pacific. And I was like, cool, I've never heard of that. And they were like, you're going to the basic reconnaissance course. And I was like, the Marines. I'm going with the Marines. I was so excited.
So did you not put in for that?
I put in, of course, for another ship or the Marines, but Marines first.
Okay, so you just put in for, I want to go to be basically deployed with Marines. You really didn't know what your specific assignment would be.
Yeah, you never know. They pick it.
Got it.
And so my first choice Marine, second choice ship, and then it was probably third choice ship. Do you know what I mean? I was ready to keep in action. And
third choice was, I'll leave the Navy.
Yeah, for real.
The old days talking to your recruiter.
So
don't test me.
I know, for real. But I got it. And the orders were really vague and really strange, and I didn't know really what I was getting myself into by the way the orders looked. Normally the orders are pretty self-explanatory, you know what's going on. And these were like just odd. The wording was so brief and to the point, and it didn't really give me any kind of what I'm going to be doing. So I'm in my dress whites, my skirt and my pumps, got my hair in my bun, you know, in its whites, you know, sailor. I walk into the Marine Corps office, and I was like, hi, I'm reporting for duty.
This is on Coronado, right?
Coronado. I'm reporting for duty. And these guys are like in PT gear, and they stop me, like literally stop me. And they go, wait a minute, stop. You're not a guy. And I was like, I'm aware. And they were like, we weren't sure about your name. It was Tamara, right? But I mean, like maybe I was a guy. They couldn't assume. It was a guy billet. So it was only males, no females allowed. And here I come, show up. And they were like, whoa, 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 whoa. And so for 3 hours, I stood at parade rest in front of the colonel's office, and he was deciding whether I got to stay or not. That was my first day. And I'm in my dress, you know, and I'm feeling so stupid. I'm feeling like I made a mistake. Somebody made a mistake. And I thought I was in trouble. I felt like I was in trouble. So
silly question. Before reporting for this duty, did you do any research on what it was about?
No, I didn't really know, you know, just the acronyms and the abbreviation, EWTG PAC and all this. I wasn't sure what my exact job was going to be. I just knew I was going to be with a Marine Corps unit under EWTG PAC. Got it. And so I'm there. They go, you're going to be waiting a minute. Do you have camis? And I did have camis, but mine were woodland camis from like 1999, right? Like the SEALs still wore them, but nobody else wore them. So they were like, go change in your camis. So I did. And I came back and they were like, what the hell are those? And I was just so embarrassed. I was everything wrong that day. Like nothing was right. But I stood strong. Like I needed to figure out, like I got to figure out what I'm going to do next. Like I was always a what's next. So
related to this, how was your physical fitness at that point?
I was average. I was never a turbo fitness person. I was always just your regular pass. And, you know, every now and then I would do stellar because I would get really into CrossFit or something, you know what I mean? But for the most part, I was just average. And I definitely was not groomed for the Marine Corps. If that was your leading question, I was not even an inch. There was nothing about my physical ability that was ready for the Marine Corps at all.
So a little different from the Navy. Oh,
totally. The Navy, you go in PT in the morning and that was it. We play soccer or whatever, you know. Yeah, so I'm standing out there and I'm sure that's part of their consideration, right? Is that I obviously just was average. And so 3 hours later, the colonel calls me in with the group of instructors at the basic reconnaissance course and says, Doc, we're going to need you to stand by for about 3 months. We got your orders in progress, but you can't leave for 3 months. In the meantime, don't show your ass. And that was exactly what they said. And it was that brief. And I was like, okay, I guess I'm staying for 3 months and I'm not to show my ass. And I understood what he meant. Do you know what I mean? And I wasn't the type to do that. So it was pretty all right for me, you know. Next thing I know, it's like 2 years later and they sent me to instructor school. So when I was there, they were like, okay, now we want you to go through each obstacle, not consecutive. Don't get me wrong. I wasn't a turbo. Right. It was just like, hey, today you have time. You're going to go through the obstacle course. Hey, you have time, you know, during these 2 weeks, you're going to do the patrol phase, or you're going to do land nav, or you're going to do amphibious operations, or whatever.
And all of this would have been normal for any corpsman assigned to this, correct?
Yeah, but it would have been a male.
Correct.
Yeah. So I started just doing the obstacles because they wanted me to know what they were going through. So in order for me to treat their injuries, I had to know what they were going through, which made total sense. But talk about difficult. I was horrible at all of it, but I got better as time went on. Like the obstacle course, they set me up with it and I failed it every time. They just had me redo it and redo it and redo it and redo it until I passed it. Do you know what I mean? Every obstacle. So
from the operator level, though, were they cool with you?
They were cool and very, very good at instructing me and making sure that I got it, you know? I had a really great experience with the Marines. Like the Navy, another story, but the Marines were always respectful. And I think the reason for that was in the Marine Corps, they tell you to do your job. And if you do your job, they leave you alone. That's all they want you to do is your job. So I just did my job and nobody ever, you know, like you don't mess up. Nobody's going to have an eye on you. You just keep on doing your job. So I just did my job and nobody bothered me the whole time. Nobody gave me any grief. I thought I was going to get major grief from being a girl there, but they really adapted well. And I think it was because I was turbo. You know, I was a motivator. I did what I was supposed to, plus then some, you know. I did the obstacles as they asked, and I excelled at some of them. Got to jump out of helicopters, got to spy rig, got to go rappelling, got to be out in the middle of the ocean on these little tiny boats and drive them in on a mission. Do you know what I mean? It was things that girls never, ever, ever get to do, especially jumping out of a helicopter. I got to do that a few times, and that was just incredible. Fast
rope or parachute?
No. You just jump out with your fins. And,
into the water.
Yeah,
okay.
And then got to go spy rigging, and that was pretty cool, except for the fact that the guy above me was about your height, and they didn't space us enough.
Kicking you in the head?
He kicked me right in the face. It broke my whole face. And my teeth got loose. My nose got broken. I broke my orbits. I was broken.
Damn.
I know I was bleeding like crazy, and they were like, are you okay? Or whatever, are you okay? And,
wait, you're the corpsman. Fix yourself.
I know. And so I was like, I'm okay. And we flew around and did our thing and then came back, and I had to go to medical because my face was all busted up. So, but I got disability for that break in the face. So that was pretty cool because now I eat complications with my nose and whatnot. Anything
residual that you deal with because of that?
Yeah, I have a busted sinus. So my nose is actually, I don't know if you can see it. It's on sideways.
A little bit.
But that was the result, you know. But whatever, you know, it was quite an experience, you know, telling somebody, yeah, I was getting kicked in the face while I was hanging out of a helicopter, you know, maybe not what they would think, but, you know, training exercises. So it was really, being with the Marines was the time of my life.
And what year was this?
05 to about 10, December of 09. So.
Did you actually end up deploying with them?
Never. So that wasn't a deployable unit. It was a training unit.
Okay.
So yeah, after I had been there 2 years, they sent me to instructor school. And so I instructed their medical and environmental parts of the course for the next 3 years. So I was there 5 years and just training and training and training. And I was so fortunate because like for them to let me do all of that, it was them making those decisions to let a female in, you know what I mean? And teach that. They had confidence in me, and that gave me confidence, you know? But then it came time for orders because I had been there 5 years and that was unheard of. It was them extending my orders that let me stay there, but they couldn't extend them anymore. So I got orders to go to IDC school, Independent Duty Corpsman School. Did that for the next year. And then after that, Now, what does that entail? Oh, Independent Duty Corpsman School. That's basically like a physician's assistant.
Okay.
So you're doctoring.
You're back in a hospital.
No, you could be on a ship or with Marines.
Okay.
You can be anywhere.
Okay.
You're just practicing solo without a physician present. So I was already doing that with the Marines. There was no physician in my line of duty. I was already doing independent duty because they had an independent duty corpsman billet at the school, but they couldn't fill it because we were at war. So I filled it even though I didn't have the credentials. So I was doing the work already. So my commanding officer recommended that I go to the school. He had the intention of getting me back, but I spent 5 years there. They wouldn't send me back.
Oh,
so it was unfortunate. We had a plan, but it didn't work out for us. During IDC school, there was a lot of politics and bad things that happened. And so I opted to get out. So I got out roughly 6 months after that.
Directed specifically at you or just politics within the Navy?
Both. Yeah, absolutely both. There was some directly towards me. I was having, let's just say, some beef with some people, and it went all the way up to the top. Inspector General came out, and it was just this whole thing. And it was, if I stayed in as an IDC, I was already pegged as a whistleblower kind of thing, because there was so many people doing wrong, and it was affecting many females. And so I wasn't going to have that, especially because I was the leader in my class. And so politics came into play. And I said, well, likely when I go back into the community, because I'm not a male, they're going to blackball me. And so I said, okay, I better get out while getting's good. And so I did. And it wasn't like the best feeling in the world, you know, but it was now in hindsight, 100% the right choice, because I was still motivated. You know, I wasn't busted. You know what I mean? Like if I would have stayed, those politics would have just crushed me, because the Navy doesn't care if you're doing your job. They want to get in there.
Right.
They want to get in there and I don't know why that is. They want to kind of creep in and figure out what you're doing. And it's like, just leave me alone. Let me do my job like the Marine Corps did. And they didn't. And I couldn't handle that. Like I could not handle that. Don't bother me. I'm doing my job, you know? Anyway, I got out.
Did you ever put in a packet for Master Chief?
No, I had just taken my chief's exam my second chief's exam, and I was supposedly getting it. But you know, it didn't matter to me if they were waving that over my face. I was like, you people suck. Send me back to the Marines and I'll stay. Do you know what I mean? But I had just gone to the Marines for 5 years, so it wasn't an option. So I was really in a bad spot with them. And I was just becoming disgruntled and not a fan of the Navy anymore, especially after being with the Marines. You know what I mean? It was so cut and dry there, so easy to maneuver. And the Navy is a whole nother beast. So
basically you came to the end of that enlistment and got out.
Yep. Yep.
How soon before the end of that enlistment did you know you were getting out and not going to re-enlist?
A week.
So it was literally like I'll call it a snap decision.
Yeah. Yep. I was like, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm not going to re-enlist. I'm going to get out.
Do you have any plans for yourself getting out?
No, I was going to go to school.
Okay.
So I didn't really know. I just knew that everybody told me, you need to go to school now. You need to go to school now. You need to go to school now. I didn't know anything about it. Never met anybody that went to college, and have anybody in my family that went to college, but I knew I had to do it. So it was like the second I got out was April, and I was looking for schools. 2011.
Okay.
And I was looking for schools everywhere. I lived in French Valley, Moreno Valley. What do you call it? French Valley. What do they call that? Winchester, French Valley, sort of south of here, Temecula. Then I moved to Moreno Valley to go to Moreno Valley College. Went there for 3 years, got 2 degrees. And then I thought that was the end of the road. I thought that was college.
What were you studying?
I did social and behavioral studies, and then I did math and science. So I covered both fields because I didn't.
So not anything medical related?
No, nothing medical related. I was switching fields altogether. I just felt like so bitter towards the Navy when it came to that I was like, you know what? No, I'm going to do something else. I'm going to, because I was going to become a better person,
Right.
And
did you have a job planned for yourself?
No, I had nothing.
I'm just going to school.
Yeah, I'm just going to school. I spent 3 years there, not necessary whatsoever. I could have spent 1.5 years, but I didn't know what I was doing. And I knew that if I had got a degree, I'd be the first one in my family to get a degree. So everybody came to my graduation. It was awesome, and I did really well in school. I was president of the Veterans Club. I was their very first VA work study. I did so much for that school to get all their veteran stuff started. And they invited me back to host their Veterans Day events. And then I was guest speaker or keynote speaker at graduation 1 year to motivate the folks. They invite me back, and it's really cool because I created a really good relationship with that college. But I transferred to UC Santa Barbara, University of California, Santa Barbara after that. And do you remember when I said I was little and I moved to Wyoming and the diversity wasn't there? When I moved to Santa Barbara, that was the only school that somebody told me I needed to go to. When I was in community college, I was never introduced to any other school. So my counselor just was, I guess they went there. And so that's where I went. I didn't investigate anything else. I was just somebody was telling me what I need to do. And so I was just doing it like I was like a Marine, just doing it. And so I went to Santa Barbara There's very much lack of diversity up there. So again, I was like,
well, there's a lot of surfers.
Yeah, yeah. But I was like, okay, this place is a little odd. It's not Southern California whatsoever, you know. So I had a struggle there because I ran into some people who had very white mentality, and I had to set them straight. So I got a little angry at times, brought back my childhood stuff. And where are my Doc Martens? I'm going to go get them. For real. I mean, for real. And so, you know, I had to get help at that point because I was feeling very angry at my environment. And so I was a student doing very poorly, very, very poorly. I couldn't pass calculus. I was a psychology major. How were you transitioning to just being a civilian? Forget the school aspect. Yeah. How were you transitioning to just life as a civilian? Poorly. I wasn't, because 3 months after I got out, I started school. I never decompressed, ever. I was a train wreck, even all the way up into Santa Barbara. I'd already been in college like 4 years, and I was a train wreck. My mental health was horrible. My physical health, horrible. Everything about it. It was just, I could not do anything because I was clogged. You know what I mean? So the next thing I know, I just marched myself into mental health on campus, and I was like, I need help. I can't do anything. Like I'm at a stop. And it was wonderful. They helped me so much. They introduced me to what I was fighting. And then they introduced me to Student Disability Resource Center. So I got assistance in the classroom. I got quiet class time. I got private class time to take a test. I got help with taking notes. You know, they introduced me to time management. My advisor helped me, all these things. And I got a grip on school finally with that mental health help. And did UC Santa Barbara have a big or a component for veterans on campus? On campus, no. Horrible at that time for veterans on campus, but it's grown a tiny bit since then, a little bit. They're just not up. They're just not up there where they need to be, you know, even now. They have a VA office clinic up there. And so I started seeing the VA on top of the school counseling so that I could get, you know, help with the VA. It worked out. Like I really got the help that I needed, and I started cruising, and I found a major that I loved. I ended up getting A's, you know, brought my grade point average up, graduated, everything worked out. It was so good. You know, I was so happy with the major that I took. Did you switch a major? Or? I did. I ended up doing cultural anthropology, specific Native American studies. Okay. And that I was so interested in it, and it was so easy to me because I absorbed, you know, and I was like, why didn't I have this the whole time? But you don't know what you don't know, you know, but finally, at least it happened, you know, but, an odd question for you. So you're studying cultural anthropology. Mm-hmm. I'm sure from a personal point of view, you thrived on the learning aspect and what you learned from it. But did you think that it was something that you would be able to utilize as a profession or a career? Well, I thought that I was going to go into something cultural, you know what I mean? Like I wasn't sure what it was exactly, whether it was anthropology or just work in general. And then, you know, I still, even though I was getting well in my head, I didn't have a plan for what I was going to do when I got out of school. Almost kind of burying yourself under studying so you wouldn't have to think about what to do when the studying was done. Exactly. It wasn't for like one of the first times I wasn't thinking ahead, which was the biggest mistake because for like 6 months after graduation, I was couch surfing. I had to keep my dog at my mom's house. I mean, there was a couple of nights where I was sleeping in my car. It was just, you know, for like 6 months, I was just down and out, no job, no place to live. And it was just a reminder of when I was a kid. And I was like, at least. And this is after graduating from UC Santa Barbara? Yeah. Yeah. And I tell veterans now, be prepared, like prepare yourself. You don't want to be me. I use myself as the example of what not to do the entire time I talk to people about college. Don't do anything that I did. Learn from me, right? Because, you know, being a first-generation college student, you don't know what you don't know. And now that I know, I share it with everybody who is a first generation so they don't have to go through it all. They can just be successful and graduate on time and get good grades. But, yeah, that 6 months, that was a rough go. Finally got a job with the VA, helping out with disability claims. Did that for about a year. But during that year, I interviewed for many jobs, did, you know, just sick days, interviewing for jobs like I'm doing now, all at community colleges and universities doing what I'm doing now. Because when I was a student, I was a VA work study working in the Veterans Resource Center helping vets. And I knew back then that's all I want to do, because that's where my heart is. That's what I'm good at. And it just comes easy to me because I did it wrong, you know? So I have stories to share on how it can be done right. And then, you know, after a year working with the disability claims, I got this job at UC Riverside. It was like kismet. I got the job doing the Veterans Resource Center coordinator at UC Santa Barbara. And I don't know if UC Riverside heard, but it was like Did you
get drafted, so to speak?
So to speak. And so I was very lucky. They picked me out of a really large pool of vets that applied for the position, and been there ever since. It's about a little over 6 years now. Opened the Veterans Resource Center right when I got there. My first day at work, we met with Congressman Takano at campus with all the student vets. It was very intense. I mean, I was thrown into a life that I didn't ever know. I didn't know politics. I didn't know education. I didn't know anything but vets. So
you weren't just supposed to work it. You were supposed to stand it up and get it running?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was day one. It was open the day I got there. And we just, from our, you know, innate ways, we just kind of created it. And I feel like I was the right person for the job now because I've seen the growth. I take it personal, their lives and how we help them, you know. It's been a really good ride. It hasn't been a bumpy ride. It's been a supportive ride. It's pretty cool working where I work because it's not like the military. It takes a lot of time to get things done. Nobody's like snapping to get it done, you know. And I had to learn patience. And then, you know, I'm working there for a while, learning all these things, getting a grip on the education world. And I decided that I'm not done yet. I need more. And so I joined a master's program there in higher education, specifically administration and policy, because I wanted to dig into the insides of how does this all work? And so I got to learn the insides of the system and a little bit about the outsides. You know, I had some great professors that gave me tons of knowledge on like what I'm doing. And I brought it to work, started making things even better. It's going really well. We started out, I think, when I got there at 74 vets, and now we have like 316.
Wow.
So, and that's in 6 years. That's pretty good growth. And then not to mention our dependents, we have about 1,000 of those. So we take care of those as well. Because I always say that if I had children and they were going to college, somebody better take care of my children. Do you know what I'm saying? That veteran's child, oh my gosh, better take care. And their spouses, take care of them. They had a rough go at it as well. Do you know what I mean?
So the Veterans Resource Center on every campus also addresses or is there to help the children of active military members?
I don't think everyone, but ours is. So in the beginning, we focused just on vets because we needed to figure out what we were doing. And we focused mainly on vets. It was always open to dependents and spouses. We never closed it. But now we have programming and things for them. So we draw them in just the same. It is my opinion that veterans need to acclimate themselves to society. And the best way to do it is to talk to civilians and kind of civilianize yourself. And so these dependents and spouses are civilians. And so if the vets and the dependents are all in the same space hanging out together, the vets get good practice at how to civilian, and they don't realize it. It's intentional for me, you know, because I had to learn to civilian, and it took me a long time to realize that I had to learn how to civilian and talk to them and make it so that the conversation is sort of even and full and not breaking because I get stern, I guess. Do you know what I'm saying?
Marine headed.
Right. Exactly. So, you know, I believe I call it the gray zone. I started a presentation called Gray Matters, and it's welcoming veterans to the gray zone. So it teaches veterans how to set goals, SMART goals, and how to, you know, evaluate their strengths and their weaknesses to get into the gray zone, because everything in the military is black or white. It's yes or no. Is your job done? Yes or no. There's no, I'm almost done. I just need this one little thing. Is your job done? Yes or no, right? If it's not done, then why? Get to it. But in the civilian world, is your job done? Well, I'm about halfway. I got about 70% done this time or something. And that's a totally acceptable answer. Like people take that and they go, okay. But in the military, your job's not done. You're out here. You know what I mean? It's totally different. And I try to tell them there's a gray area and it's a safe area. It's okay to go into the gray zone and stay there and float for a while. It's okay not to have every answer. It's okay to not be done. It's okay to be done. Whatever your situation is, it's okay now to be in the gray zone. It's so uncomfortable for them. We talk about it. And I had that. It was so uncomfortable to be iffy, you know, and not have a stern yes or no. So now I just go around trying to get people to mesh and become civilians, the best civilians that they can be, so that when they graduate, they can get a job and not be like me and go out there and go, well, I was in the military 12 years. You should hire me. I've got a degree, you know? And that was kind of how I went out there and projected myself. Nobody taught me you can't be that way. If you're trying to get a job, you can't just demand it. You know what I mean? You can't.
Well, you can try.
Yes, you can't walk in there and tell them how great you are and expect them to hire you. It just doesn't work that way. And so I give them opportunities to grow in that way, introduce them to folks to help them with the job, and introduce those thoughts to them right when they get there. You know, what do you want to be when you grow up? Okay, let's get you that job right now. You are now a doctor. From this point forward, you think about yourself, I'm a doctor. Every move you make, it's because you're a doctor. And I tell them to get in that frame of mind. The next thing you know, they're in medical school, and it works. I do it with myself. I am applying for my doctorate at Cal State San Bernardino.
Congratulations.
This month, I think. This month is when the application opens, I think, November.
And what will you be your field of study?
Education. I'll have a doctorate in education. So it'll apply to what I want to do, but I'm trying to see if I can teach maybe. So some colleges have veteran introduction classes, and it helps them transition. So it's once a week you meet with your vets and help them transition into college and into civilian life. And I would love to teach one of those. I get to do brief ones at certain universities and colleges. CalVet, the state, has me go and do education pathways to teach the folks that are getting out about education, which is really cool to be invited by CalVet. Do you know what I mean?
And where will you go for something like that? Where will you go do a presentation at?
Like March or...
Okay, so on the base.
Or Fort Irwin or, wherever base they're going, I'll travel out there and present the education part to the folks, letting them know that not only is it a possibility, it's a smart move, and here's why. You know, and I give them all the differences of all the colleges and just try to give them as much information I can for them to make the best selection for their situation. Because so many people make bad decisions. They don't get the right information upon getting out, you know. And since I learned the hard way, I can tell them, if you do this, it might be the right decision. If not, you can do this. You know, I can give them options.
This is going to sound like a loaded question. Somebody's coming out of the military. They know they want to go to school. They have a school in mind, whatever college it is.
Yeah.
And that school happens to have a veterans program like yours.
Okay.
But they don't mesh with the program. Should they still go to that school? Or should they find another school to go to?
Yeah, I always tell them it doesn't matter what school you're going to, it's the program. You have to mesh with your program. Your program has to be number one. When you go to get a job, like with UCR, yeah, you're going to have UCR in your diploma, but you're going to have the Gary Anderson School of Business on there. And people are going to notice that before the UCR. Do you know what I mean? The business folks are going to know what school of business you went to. If that school of business isn't within your...
I was talking more at the veteran program level. Like if you don't feel like you mesh in that program with your counterpart, should they still stay at that school or should they go to another school?
That's really
That's
tough.
why I said it's a loaded question.
Yeah. So I have vets that tell me that the schools that they went to prior to my school, they never stepped foot in the Veterans Resource Center because they didn't mesh in there. It wasn't their thing, but they finished their degree or whatever at that school and came here and checked out the Veterans Resource Center, and now they hang out because it meshes with the way that they feel. I have plenty of students that they only come in to me if they have a problem, or they only call, or they only email. They absolutely do not feel comfortable coming in there. And I tell them that's fine. I give them other resources for other places to go. Like a lot of women feel weird about going in there. We try to make it a really friendly environment for women, but it's understandable why some women wouldn't even try to test out the waters, and I understand. So I introduced them to the Women's Resource Center, where we have a female vet working up in there, so that there's some kind of connection, you know. We have a female vet and a male vet both working at the Student Disability Resource Center, so that when vets go in there for help, they know that somebody's there like them. One even has a service dog, so it really, you know, it's very welcoming. So somebody comes in there and they realize, oh, I'm really going to get the help that I need based off of what I got going on. We try to do things like that on campus to make the vets know that, you know, they can go anywhere. We have other centers, Chicano Student Program Center, the LGBTQ Center. We have a Hillel office, a Middle Eastern Student Center. I mean, any Asian Pacific student, Native American student, all these different ethnic and culture centers for students to go to if they don't like the Veterans Resource Center. So I introduce them to those, and a lot of them will go there and hang out, and that's their spot. And as long as I know that they're alive and kicking and their stuff isn't messed up, they don't have to come in. They don't ever have to come in, ever. And that's fine with me. Like, I just want to make sure they're okay. You know,
outside of academic functions, do you host events specifically for veterans through your group?
Yeah. We do stuff like weekly. I do a lot weekly. So weekly, I go out to a community college and visit the student veterans that are trying to come my way, so that they have some continuity, a face, if they want to come our way. And then on campus, what we do outside of the academics is we bring in networking events constantly for jobs. So any kind of employer, somebody comes up to me. One guy came up to me and he goes, I want to work for Oshkosh when I'm done. And I was like, okay, you want to build those big trucks or whatever? And it's in Wisconsin. So I just called him up and I said, do you have a veterans hiring department or a manager that hires veterans? And they were like, well, yes, we do. And I said, well, can I talk to them? So she gets on the phone and I scheduled a Zoom conference with her for all the students that wanted to come and work for Oshkosh. It was that easy. So I do all these events like that. Like, tell me what you want. I'm going to get it. You know, people are willing. It's not like they're going to say no. They need people. And so I do those things that are for function. And then I do things for fun. We play games regularly, just easy games for them because they're students. So it's like guessing games, but for good prizes. Gets them involved and gets them in the center. We do stupid things too, like paper airplane contests. And we do 22 push-ups a day when it's November. For Veterans Week, we do a flag raising ceremony with the color guard. We do a Marine Corps cake cutting ceremony. We do a veterans luncheon. So it's like food all day in the Veterans Center. So everybody can just come in and chill, do whatever. Twice a year, we do ally training for the campus to try to get them like involved and know about our student vets, what they're going through, what they bring to the table, things like that. We do a panel with vets so they can talk to the vets. Twice a year. We do Memorial Day flag planting. So we cover the whole lawn from the front of the campus in with flags, and anybody can come and plant one in memory of a loved one.
It sounds like the school is really behind what you're doing for the veterans also.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I have great support. So I have a tremendous support system. I can't even. So my support system is so wonderful that my students expressed there's a VA program that's failing the students right now. It's causing them to have financial hardships. And the reason is because there's no staffing in California. And so our students, like we had 40 students who were suffering. And so we brought it up the chain of command. And so our government relations director, our vice chancellor of student affairs, myself, and 2 students went to Washington, D.C. to talk to Congress about the reservist parity bill, because we had a reservist there with us who doesn't get much money. And so we had to fight for that with Congress, which was really cool because our school represented, you know. And then immediately after that, we had a meeting with the head of that program for people to get it straight. And so that was our government affairs, you know, director and our vice chancellor with us in DC, talking to the head of the guy from the VA program, saying, what is the matter with your program and why is it affecting our students? And I mean, to the point where they gave us an answer, something, something, something. And my students went back and said, if it's one student, it's a problem. And just in their face. And next thing you know, these students, the work is being distributed, even though it's being distributed to other states, they're getting attention now in California, you know, and it's a solution. It's a poor solution, but it's a solution. And it's my students that keep going back to them and saying, this is not acceptable. This is what you need to do and whatever. And it's really, really cool to have that kind of support on my campus to go to DC and get our message across and then have it work. You know, I have tremendous support. Yeah.
Are you finding that across the board with most campuses, or is it kind of hit and miss?
It's a hit and miss. Yeah. There's some campuses that go, how do you do it? And I'm like, I just ask. You know, like I just ask them. They're regular people. They're nice, regular people. They're not mean or, you know, they don't have a negative mission. You know, they want everybody to succeed. And so I just ask, like, if a veteran needs housing or something, I just ask. You know, if a veteran needs this, I just ask. Or if the group needs something, I just ask. I have no fear. What are they going to say? No. Okay, then we've come up with a different solution. We were in the military. There's a workaround, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
We came indirectly connected through the Veterans Court. Are you working directly with the Veterans Court also? And how'd you get involved with that?
So how I got involved was I had a student who was going through the program of Veterans Treatment Court. And he was probably my lead student. He got selected as one of the top 10 student veterans of the year. He went through Veterans Treatment Court successfully, and he graduated with honors. I mean, he now is doing his PhD up at University of Chicago for veterans counseling. He's just a really stellar student, and had to support him. So just sat in the benches and just supported, and then went to his graduation. And then the judge turned over. So the judge was, I forget his name. Anyway, there was another judge, and he retired. And so Randy came in, and Greg was my student, talked to Randy about me, saying that I was a good motivator for him, and let me go to talk to the people in the court, telling them my experiences in life, and just basically letting them know that you can keep going. You know, you don't have to stop. Like, I was down and out. I was never supposed to be where I'm at now. And I just kept going. Somebody told me, keep going. And I was like, okay, you know, okay, I will. And I just try to tell them, I'm telling you to keep going. So, you know, even though I'm a silly person, just keep going. It works. Like, I never meant to, and I don't want to. Like, I don't enjoy school at all. But, you know, it gets you somewhere. You watch it go in play.
You may not like it, but you're neck deep in it.
Yeah, exactly. And you can put it in play in life, and that you realize that there's a difference, you know, in your life from your education, the way you do things. For me anyway, it helps me progress, and I see the use in it. Maybe some people aren't using their degree to the use, that the purpose of it, but I'm directly doing what my degree is for. So it helps. You know what I'm saying? So I try to encourage them.
And what's cool about it is you found a path by accident.
Totally.
You know, this isn't anything that you would have thought you were going to be doing, but the opportunity presented itself. And now what's really cool to see is how you've taken it and ran with it. And you're like, okay, how can I better myself to then be better for those that I'm working with?
Yeah. Yeah. I, absolutely. Anything I can do to get them to be better and more successful is my mission. Like, every day. What do you need? They come in, I'm like, what do you need? You need a mentor? I know somebody. I mean, just the other day I had a kid come in, he was a neuroscience major. I don't know anything about that. That's too heavy for me. But I did know a student who graduated who is like a researcher at Stanford now, who is a UCR neuroscience alum. So I just connected them, and now they got a little mentorship going on. And if I can do that for everybody to be successful, then that's what I want to do. Try to get everybody either going into research, going into a grad program, going into a profession, whatever I can do to have them not be like me. Don't be homeless or jobless when you leave here. Don't do it. It sucks. You know, you have to find a starter job. You have to go to Amazon and lift boxes, which would have been just fine prior to your degree, but you did a degree for a reason. You know, I'm not discrediting that work, but I'm saying that you're supposed to be doing what you went to school for now. You know what I mean? That's what you did it for, you know?
Use it.
Yeah, get to it, you know, and a lot of people don't. They just revert back because that's what they know and that's what's easy. Yeah.
Going way back to when you were talking about how you stepped into the realm of, hey, I need mental health help while you're at UC Santa Barbara. Along those lines, though, how much does the work you do today help you from a personal side?
It's healing every single day. Because I get new situations that come my way that I can learn from. So I hear people going, well, I did this, that, and the other. I'm like, okay, so I'm never going to do that. Thank you for teaching me not to do that. You know, I learned a lot of things from them. Personally, what I can and cannot do or should and should not do. Or I consider myself truly empathetic. And it helps me maintain that, you know, and I learned that as being a corpsman. Don't be sympathetic with people, be empathetic with people, you know, and they come in and all day long I'm seeing people like I saw patients, but these are students with student issues. Like, I'm an advisor, and every day, doesn't matter who it is or what it is, when I'm done, if they leave there feeling better, like I feel so much better because I helped somebody. Do you know what I mean? It brings me back to being a corpsman, gives me purpose every day, every day. Yeah. I learn a lot personally, like things that I can do, avenues, resources, just from everybody. It's a learning experience. Each person is a learning experience. It's not just for me to help them. They're helping me too, you know, helping other vets. You navigate yourself.
Going back to when you were at the Marine Corps, you basically broke the glass ceiling in that they allowed a woman to do that corpsman's job. Did they continue it after you left?
So what's weird is I don't view it as breaking a glass ceiling. It was just completely an accident. Like it was not supposed to be. Like I was there on erroneous orders, you know?
Right, because they specifically asked for a male corpsman.
Yes.
What I'm saying is instead of just turning you away, say, nope, it's got to be a male, you set the standard and said, hey, I'm a woman, but I can do it.
Yeah.
Did they continue with that to your knowledge afterwards?
So not with corpsmen that I know of, but in, I want to say 2019, they had their first female Reconnaissance Marine graduate the course. So maybe I had something to do with it. Maybe I had something to do with it. Somebody had to have known I was there, right? And that I successfully, you know, at least completed, not in a full mission, but completed it as a person who was not fit to do it. You know, like they never would have allowed me. It was just by accident, you know? And I'm not saying I was, I mean, I was turbo motivated, you know, don't even get me wrong. I was motivated, the job and all. But I wasn't a fitness buff. Like they harped me every day to work out. Like they were like, come on, we're working out. Come on, we're working out. And I mean, I got diesel. I was so diesel there. I mean, I was pulling trailers with a harness. Do you know what I mean? I was flipping huge tires. I mean, I was doing it all. And I called myself an Amazon at the time because I was just so diesel. I was picking guys up with one hand out of the water, pulling them out. Do you know what I mean? Like running around a little boat, picking them up, pulling them in because he was hypothermic or going to die or whatever the case may be. I just thrived in that environment, you know? Yeah, it was good.
I'm sure your tenacity had nothing to do with it.
Yeah, I mean, if they chose or if they enabled another female to come in, I only hope that she was highly motivated as I was, so that it didn't crush the whole thing, you know. But the one that graduated, there was a nice article in Military Times about her. It sounded like she just killed it, and I was so proud. I would love to meet her. Do you know what I mean? I would just love to meet her. I want to say, how fast did you go through the obstacle course? I hope it was in 6 minutes because that's what the most of the guys did is 6 minutes, and mine was like 15. But I did it. Oh yeah. So there was a lot of things that I would love to go back and visit and see how it ended up. But when I left, that was it. I left. Do you know what I mean? I rarely kept in touch. I kept in touch with some of the guys through the years. We've kind of faded out or whatever, but it was tough leaving that duty station. They became my brothers. They took care of me. They kept a really good eye on me. There was never a time where I was going to be in trouble and out in the field, doing some scary stuff or, you know, bad weather or whatever, almost getting run over by a tank. You know what I mean? Like these things, they always were protective of me. Where's Doc? Where's Doc? You know? And if we were doing like scary ocean obstacles, they put a yellow helmet on me because they needed to know where I was just in case they needed me. It was so cool. I mean, they got me a water ambulance because I needed a water ambulance out there. We were doing things and there was too many bodies and stuff. So they bought me a water ambulance for cruising around when we were doing amphib phase. They were so supportive. I would say these things would be so much more convenient for us to get our job done. We were getting people that are falling out left and right, and I don't have means to take care of them because they would get these things called SIPs, swimmers-induced pulmonary edema, where they would just foam blood out of their mouth. They're going to die in a minute if I don't take care of them. And we need a dry, warm place to do it, you know? So they treated me so well. I can only hope that if another female came out there and she was highly motivated, that she was able to encourage them to do those things. We needed a water ambulance. We needed to train on how to do IVs with everybody. Do you know what I'm saying? All these things that needed to happen, they weren't happening before. Like, I don't know who was not doing it, you know, but I was trying to train the whole group on how to do everything they needed to survive out there, because I would tell them, like, I had a guy break his leg out in the field. I think we were on land nav, and he broke his leg. And oh no, patrol phase, because he had the last hump thing to go on, trail of tears. What did they call that? I forget, the last leg.
Okay.
He broke his leg. I was like, okay, if you drop out now because of your leg, you have to start over from the beginning when it heals. So you've got like 6 months you're looking at of just kind of idle time. Or I can tape you up really good and you can try to finish. And in my guts now I go, oh, that's such bad care. I should have been put in jail for that bad care. But out in the field, when I'm wrapping them up and when I took 2 sticks, some duct tape and just wrapped them up as tight as I could.
Who says duct tape can't fix everything?
I know. And I put those moldable splints on the outside and then put his boot on as tight as I could, which was like open all the way pretty much, tight as I could. And I asked him, I said, how does that feel? And he goes, I think I can if I limp. And I'm like, then you limp as far as you can and make it. And then you can go to the hospital and heal. I said, but I'm not giving you advice. I'm giving you a choice, And he chose that route. And so we did it and he made it. And it was like on the spot because I told him when I did it, I was like, check it out. This is the situation. You're with your team and you're out on patrol. You just broke your leg. What's going to happen? Are these guys going to hump you? Are you going out? You're not going anywhere. This is your team and this is your mission. You got a broken leg. What are you going to do? You're going to patch it up and keep moving because that's your only choice. You don't have another choice when you're out in the field, for real. And they just go, oh,
light bulb.
I need to act like it's real. And I'm like, you absolutely need to act like it's real. So in the real situation, you're going to get duct taped and you're going to hump your way out. And then you're going to get medical attention. Every time I had a patient out in the field, I would tell him, this is the way it's going to work in the real life. We don't have like state of the art supplies out here. We just didn't. It's the Marine Corps. You don't have a budget, just patch them up the best you can and let them know that this is reality right now. And you have to learn to suck it up. Yeah.
The other thing that's in my mind right now, so when you get your doctorate degree, are you going to take a photocopy of it, fold it up in an envelope with a piece of gum and mail it back to that teacher?
I would love to. Oh, he's probably dead by now. He was pretty old. I would love to. Oh my gosh, wouldn't that be awesome? Yeah.
I mean, every one of us has probably said the wrong thing at the wrong time, but something that powerful to make you stand up in front of a group of people and put a piece of gum on your nose and say, and make you say, I'm not going to college.
Yep.
I can't go to college.
Yep. It was awful. I had the worst feeling. I was like, oh man, I guess I'm not going to college. Because that day, everybody was going to college. They put us in this room full of, colleges tabling everywhere. And they were like, you're going to college, pick out a college. So everybody's all excited because that's what they were supposed to be doing. And then the next thing I know, I'm the only one not going to college. So that was in my mind. I just wasn't.
Does that still resonate with you today when you think about starting your doctorate program? Does that rattle back through your head again?
It does. I always have the thing that I don't think I'm going to be able to do it. And then I think in my head, well, I'm pretty focused when I want to do things. Like if I just say I want to do it, I usually just do it. Like I'm just that way. If I want to do it, I just do it. There's no, I don't prep, I just do it. And so when it comes time, day one, you just do it. And then you just put your head down for 3 years and read a whole bunch of stuff constantly and don't enjoy life. But then when it's done, I know the end result is going to be so much more worth it because I'm going to get to advance, not just in my career, but personally, with my vets. I'm going to understand more as far as education goes and help them getting even further. And plus it shows them not to stop. So,
lead by example.
Yeah. Yeah. Trying very hard. It's fun regardless. I mean, I'm having a pretty good time meeting all kinds of cool people, and now people I went in my grad program with work in the same campus as I do. We run into each other. It's pretty cool. I can't imagine what's going to happen next because I'm going to not a UC, which I'm kind of excited because I feel like it'll make me a little more well-rounded that I've gone to every kind of California public school, Yeah.
Because you said Cal State San Bernardino.
Yeah. They have a great veterans department. I know the folks over there. They run a really good place. And then the program suits me. So I'm pumped. I'm pretty excited. They have a good veterans department. It's easy to go in there and get things sorted out.
Any long-term goals or is there the option for you to do more of a regional or like a greater overview over multiple campuses type position?
So I kind of do a little bit of that. I am the UC representative for the California Chancellor's Office, California Community College Office of the Chancellor. And I used to be the UC rep for the state of California. So, but that you do a rotation, and I rotated out. But I had some leadership roles in that sense over all the UC campuses. And then now I speak just on behalf of the UC campuses for the California Community College. And then I do the CalVet education to pathways for the state as much as I can when they invite me, you know. And it's mostly Southern California. I don't know who does Northern. I wouldn't mind doing something like that, but I am really not a fan of doing politics. I get myself in trouble with politics because I'm very much in the middle, and I don't want anybody to use force on another person. It's not necessary. You can disagree and be civil, do you know? And I enjoy that. And sometimes when you get into like the upper positions, there's a lot of politics involved, and everybody wants to come at you with their stuff. And I'm not one to take it. And then it creates havoc.
Right.
And I get a little bit of that in my job now, where I'm just I'm very firm in what I need and what I want and what my students want to speak to their local officials about, and don't take that opportunity away from them, you know? And right now we have terrific leadership. I can't even. So we have leadership that understands that our students want to talk to their senators, their congresspeople, assembly members, all those people, you know? And so they try to set it up. And like we went to DC, and now they're trying to set it up locally and all those things. That's fine. Those politics are really good in this job. It's not my opinion anywhere, but I see if I went further, it might get a little bit more hairy, you know? I am going to apply for the director position currently where I'm at, and that's a step up. Who knows what comes after that? Dean of students one day, maybe. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I probably would stay in the veteran realm. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, like I previously said, it's great that you found your pathway, and you found it by accident, but you found that you loved it. Mm-hmm. And what you're doing and what you're being able to give back to veterans is really great. So I appreciate your time and sharing your story.
Sure thing. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Good luck with everything, and good luck with your doctorate degree.
Oh, thanks. I'm going to need it.
I appreciate you watching. But before you go, if you like the video, please hit that subscribe button. Also, any comments are appreciated. Thank you.